Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. I hope you're having a fabulous day. And of course, you're going to have even a more fabulous day when you hang out with us today. I have another fabulous guest on with me today, which is Sophie, sex coach Sophie, to be specific. We are going to dive into all things sexuality as well as tantra and what that looks like and bringing tantra into sex and sexuality. And we're going to, dive into a little bit more about what a lot of our clients are looking for and what we can help them with. So we're going to play with a little bit of premature ejaculation and erectile dysfunction and lack of desire for men, but also playing with that with for women and sharing what that looks like in long-term, short-term, you name it, relationships and how you can improve your sex life through tantra. So stay tuned. Welcome, Sophie.
Thank you so much. Good to finally meet you.
Yes.
Very happy to be here.
I'm thrilled that you are here. It's exciting. We get to meet, all of these different practitioners from around the world because we're all certified in sex, love, and relationships as well as tantra through Layla Martin and the Vita Institute. And it's really beautiful to connect now and have these shares and discuss so more of the public can get a feel for what we do. Because honestly, like there's so much vastness I find in what we can do with our clients, from breath work to inner child work and parts work to tantra to communication and intimacy to sacred sexuality, healing mother wounds, father wounds. There's so much that we can do, and it is all connected, right? I like to say how you're showing up in the bedroom is how you're showing up in your life, looking at creating boundaries and asking for what you need and speaking your truth, all of this stuff. And I find it goes all the way back to a lot of our childhoods and a lot of how we were raised, a lot of what we received, what we didn't receive, a lot of shame, miscommunication, not enough education, you name it. So we are trying to stop the unhelpful, shameful pattern of not being comfortable in our bodies around sex and sexuality and just being with our emotions on the whole, honestly, because it's all connected. So we're going to dive into all those things today. So let's start with you, though. Please, Sophie, can you share a little bit more about what you do, how you came to be here, and who you work with?
Yeah, so I found myself very often talking about sex in my private life, and people would always make fun about it. Like, oh, when you're around Sophie, eventually we'll talk about sex. And for me, it was kind of a natural development to then end up as a sex coach. And
Mm,
I always had a fascination for, yeah, everything about the body. And maybe it was also because I was brought up as a very Catholic girl, where body and sexuality is just like taken out of the picture and is very shameful. So I just had to maybe balance that out for my family. And yeah, so I work with many different clients, mainly men, but recently also more women come to me. And as you've mentioned, there is very often the topic about premature ejaculation or erectile dysfunction, and also in combination with we are in a long lasting relationship, but we're not having sex anymore. Usually,
mm,
that is a big combination. And also, there is this lack of understanding about what women need, and women usually don't understand what men need. So, for me, it's very important to bring the sexes together and get rid of the misunderstandings, because usually, yeah, it's just a misunderstanding and a lack of education. Like
mhm.
men usually forget that women, they crave to be romanced. Even, after maybe 7 years, they still want to feel wanted. And it's in between those little, uh, closeness where they can open up their heart. For instance, if they are doing something in the house, when the man passes and just hugs them or kisses them with no intention to go further and have sex, that's when women feel loved. But if that is just taken out of the picture, or every compliment is missing, or there are no little gifts or whatever coming from the man, then the woman feels neglected and maybe even
Not
feels,
meeting their love languages, right?
yes,
They're not
exactly.
meeting the basic love languages, and the women are feeling like, ugh, my partner just wants me for sex. I am
Yes.
to raise the kids, cook the meals, clean the house, and perform. And that's really depleting and it really damages a relationship. Yeah.
Mm, yeah. And men, they don't understand it. It's not that
Yeah.
they do it because they want to harm the relationship. They just don't know how important that is because they are very focus orientated. They always have one focus. And for women, it's different. They focus on many different things at one time. So if the man is going towards one task and is missing out his woman on the way to that task, then, that's like, yeah, it's not a good way of being together. But so I really love educating men about this. And then when they tell me, oh, we've had sex after 5 years again, it's like the best feeling for me,
Mm.
knowing that
Yeah.
they had joy again in their life together. Oh my God, it's like Christmas and Easter together.
How do you help men understand the differences here, especially when they are single focused?
The differences
How
in
do you
what?
help men understand more about their partners, their female partners, when men are so single focused?
Yes, yes. They can also take it from me because I'm a woman. I can explain it from the female side. So very often they understand and then very grateful for that knowledge, because
Yeah.
no one tells them.
Yeah. What do
And
you tell them? I'm actually asking, what do you tell them? Share. Yeah,
okay.
go into a little bit. What do
So
you like to tell them?
so I tell them exactly what we just discussed, that it's very important to be gentle and loving with the woman by their side, and not only when they want sex, when they're in the mood for sex. I tell
Yes.
them that foreplay, if you want to call it like that, starts after orgasming. That, it's a process, that for the woman, it's like every little things in between. It's also, if she's overstressed, like overwhelmed by all her chores, she's not gonna be in the mood. So that the man just makes sure that she can be very comfortable in her female body and relax and have a good time. Because for women,
Mm.
it's very important to feel pleasure, not only in the bedroom,
Yes,
because
absolutely.
they
So you
need.
go into the brakes and the accelerator and explaining how, if there's too much stress going on their partner's plate, they actually most likely have a really sensitive brake and not a very strong accelerator, and it's going to take some more warming up. I love this. One of my family doctor that I've had for years, he's retired recently, but he used to say, I'm talking like 20 years ago, foreplay starts at breakfast. Foreplay starts at breakfast. And it was really cute to hear this from him, a man with, four grown children at that point, but he's like, it starts earlier. It's like, what are the love languages? What does your partner need? Is it touch? Is it quality time? Is it words of affirmation? Is it acts of service? Or is it gifts? Or is it a combination? I love all of them, to be honest. I definitely have my top two being quality time and touch. But typically, a lot of men, theirs is more acts of service. Not always, but it is. I see that pattern a lot in a lot of different men. So it's helping them understand, is what I'm hearing, the differences between men and women, which I think is so, so, so powerful of
Yeah.
helping everybody understand. And this doesn't even necessarily have to be between men and women. It can be between the more masculine and the more feminine person in the relationship, right? There's a little bit of a nuance there that we get to play with of just let's open up the conversation. Like, what is it that you need? What do
Mm,
you desire? What are your fears? What would you like to play with? Keeping those lines of communication open as in my own relationship and teaching my clients as a relationship coach as well, I think is so, so key because you're right. There's just such a lack of information and a lack of education around how we're so different, every single one of us. And each of us, that little egoic brain starts to go and go and go and think, oh, well, they should like this. I like this. And that's how we do like to give is generally in our love languages because that's what feels comfortable for us. So yeah, understanding this is so important.
Yes, totally. And I'm always amazed about maybe someone is together for 13 years, but they don't know about these little things. What do they actually
Hmm.
like? So I always give them the task of find it out, go and ask the question. Yeah.
Yeah, I love this. So, and then diving into a little bit more working with men's work, how do you work with men around premature ejaculation and erectile dysfunction and all of those issues? A lot of men, of course, want to not discuss, right? They don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, I
There's
mean,
so
I
much
also,
shame.
I have a couple of them who come through referrals. So I'm actually so glad about that. You know, slowly they open up to their best friends. And very often they hear, oh, actually, I have the same issue. And some of them already came to see me and were successful. So I'm really glad about that opening.
Beautiful. Yeah.
And
How do you help men open up in that area? And
well,
how do you
I
help them heal that area and get to what they desire, which is feeling confident and masculine and, you know, in their
So
primal in the bedroom?
there is this myth out there that they think if they just tense their pelvis, they
Mm.
they're gonna solve the issue, but that's actually counterproductive. You want to be relaxed, not like that there are no muscles there. You need to have some muscles, but if they're always tense like that, it's not going to be good for premature ejaculation or erections. You need to have blood flow, and you also need to create a stress-free nervous system, and that takes time. You need to retrain your the way your body reacts in certain moments, and it's usually combined with psychology, or mainly based in psychology, where the man thinks, oh my god, I'm together with this great woman, she's so beautiful, what if I fuck up again, and there comes the
Mm.
stress, and then they tense their bums like this, and they
Everything
exploded.
kind of melts.
Ejaculation
Yeah.
happened like this. So we want to train the patterns in a different way, and they have to do that first for themselves when they masturbate. So I also ask them to minimize porn consumption, because usually that's not beneficial. And I also ask them to try to get away from their minds, because very often, especially with premature ejaculation, is that the mind is so triggered. It's like there is so much tension there already because
Mm.
it's so exciting, boo. So we want to bring all that energy into the body, and then the body can hold more pleasure,
Hmm.
and it's not going to explode like this. And also, when we bring the attention from the mind to the body, then they can learn to read the body cues better. And they know when they are closer to ejaculating again. And by breathing,
Yeah.
calm,
Bringing in the tantric principles of like breath and
yes.
sound and movement and intention and energy. You're using that to bring them back into their body and
Mhm.
helping them to follow their pleasure, essentially, the same way that we're working through with women, right? Like following your pleasure, getting out of your head, getting into your body.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Love
And
this.
as you know, working with clients, there are so many other little bits that come together. How we grew up, what we think about a man is or sex has to be, that plays such a big role in our work. So yeah, I love it. It's always very interesting. Everyone is person, even though the topic might
Hmm.
be the same, but every client brings another story.
Different
Yeah.
reasons why they're tensing, why they're feeling they're not good enough, why they're worried about performing, and so forth. Yeah.
Yes,
And
yes.
what do you notice with erectile dysfunction? Are you noticing it at a certain age, like, they like to spout in media, or are you noticing it across the board?
So yes, the factor of age definitely is something that yeah is it can decline, and then also there is less of testosterone production usually. the older you get. But you can also treat that with certain tantric exercises or also supplements. Then,
Mhm.
the lifestyle can be a big impact when you're always sitting at the desk and you never move. You only walk to your car and that's it. You're not really developing any blood flow in that area. And an erection is made out of blood. So we want that flow to just come naturally, by exercising, by making sure that there is no tension for a long time. Because very often people think, oh, maybe I'm not trained enough in that area. What I find, it's usually
Mm.
that they're too tense.
Yeah.
So I teach them how to massage that area and release the tension. Then I also make them breathe into the pelvis a lot, and all of that needs to be trained.
Yeah.
Um, you know, then you can relax more if you learn how to breathe deeply and not just like we are used to in a shallow way. Um,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
again, the psychological aspect is there. It's
Yeah.
very strong.
Looking at the shame,
Um,
looking at the conditioning, looking at the negative self-beliefs. What
yes.
I find, I think, is every single human, let's be honest, but every single couple, this is what I love to do actually currently, is I want every single couple to know these tools as a couple for themselves solo, but also so they can come together. I think teaching pussy and cock massage to give to each other in not a sexual way, but in a just for you to receive way, just to, you know, release stress, to bring in blood flow, to follow your pleasure, to surrender and just know there's no expectation around that container. It's just simply to be in your body in that moment and to simply receive, because I think so many of us are so good at giving and we're not great at receiving. So I love teaching this to couples. I think every single couple needs to have this kind of practice where, once a week, they're both just giving to each other with no expectation at the end. Because one, we're increasing testosterone in the men just by giving a beautiful cock massage and testicle massage. You can also, as you said, you teach your clients how to do it to themselves as well. You can use cold showers. There's so many ways to increase testosterone, right? And this is just a way to relax, to surrender, to feel pleasure, to just simply notice what your body wants in a given moment. And I'm noticing, especially in my clients and as a pussy holder, for women to receive a pussy massage is again so therapeutic. It's so healing. It can not even be sexual. It can just be sensual and pleasurable, and it can bring you to tears, and it can bring you to laughter, and it can bring you to, of course, sometimes orgasm too, but it's not the goal, right? That is not the goal. It is not on the table. Just this moment to surrender and be and feel can be so healing, I find, for all of the sexes.
Yeah, that's true. That's why I
I
also
love it.
teach genital massage courses, and they're very, very
Hmm.
fun. I'm very happy about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mm.
and I've done them mainly online in the past, but I am opening up more um, workshops for live for private couples who want to come and learn, but also for group couples who want to come and learn, because there's something, again, so healing. It's not like, oh my gosh, you're doing what? That's so shameful, and that's so, I can't
Yeah.
believe you're doing that in person. No, it's like it's absolutely the most beautiful healing experience to be held in a loving way by a partner who you trust in this beautiful way. And,
Mm.
why don't we give massages to our entire body, right? Like, look at our massage therapists. You're in Europe, right? But even here in Canada, like, we get massages on our back, and maybe a little bit of collarbones, but no breasts, no tummy, no, they like staying so far away from anything that might be considered sexual, and we're missing out on the rest of our bodies actually receiving the same love and stress release and pleasure building at the same time. But again, we have to erase the shame first, because there's
Mm.
so much shame built into sexuality right now.
Yeah, and it's also quite, you know, like you have to step out of your comfort zone saying, hey, actually, I want to learn more. Maybe, you know, maybe it's not so good what I do, or I just want to, you know, be better. That also takes a lot of courage. So I really admire everyone who does it. And
Hmm.
yeah, it says a lot about how you want your relationship to succeed because we
Hmm.
usually invest in everything else except for our relationships. We treat them like oof, last priority sometimes.
Yeah. And not only relationship, like when I'm giving an epic penis massage, like I'm giving it so my partner can receive, like so he can surrender and so he can be and so he can also feel more grounded, more regulated, and just
Yeah.
have a moment
Yeah.
to receive literally pleasure with no expectations. Sometimes it leads elsewhere and sometimes it doesn't. But the goal is not to be leading anywhere. It's just like, here, have a moment, have some pleasure. And I absolutely love, you're including some of the torso and arms and legs. And these are just really beautiful, sensitive areas that do not get touched enough in a non-sexual manner.
Yes.
And it's really, really healing and really nourishing for me to give and receive, which I love.
Yeah, yeah, it's a wonderful world out there that's possible. When couples come to me, you know, sometimes like when I'm massaging the woman to show the man how it can be done, their eyes go like they open up wide because they've never seen their woman like that. And
Mm.
they thought, you know, it has to be forceful or something, but actually it's more like touching a butterfly that could lead to even more pleasure. And they're really amazed sometimes. Wow, that's possible for my woman.
Such a good point, because that's the other thing. Men and women self-pleasure very differently. Men generally want more pressure and more speed, and women want softer generally in the beginning. Not always, every single time it changes. And at one moment we could be like, nope, that's not what we want. I find women specifically change the zone and change the amount of pressure and the amount of stroke frequently. It just goes all over the place. So it's about learning how to play and learning how to read your partner's body language. And in the beginning, check in. Do you
Mhm.
like the stroke? Do you like the pressure? Where are you on the scale of 0 to 10? What would you like more of? Do you need more lube? And actually asking more or less and trying to get those questions. Because sometimes we can be so inhibited and so afraid to even speak up and ask for what we want. So I love teaching my clients as well to ask the questions from their partner and they're like, oh yeah, wait, I do need something else.
Yes, yes. And also, you know, in general, having lots of questions because, you know, sometimes in the beginning, I made the mistake to tell my clients, oh, yeah, find out about what they like. But uh, it's more successful when I give them different examples of what they could ask. Because,
Can you
you
give a
know,
few of those right now? Share a few of those. Yeah.
so, you know, like before you get intimate, you could ask, what is your desire for today?
Mhm.
And maybe, you know, it's not penetration, but I just want to be held. Or I just want that you caress my hair for as long as I need to. It could be anything. Um, or what are your fears, for instance, you know?
Yeah.
Sometimes we just are so ashamed about our fears that we keep them to ourselves and they become bigger and bigger. And when we hear the response of our partner, they can sometimes just diminish or just like fade into nothingness where because you know there is no ground for having the no reason for having the fear anymore.
And just being witnessed in that fear
Yeah.
is like 99% of it, just naming it and going, thank you for listening. You don't have to fix it. You don't have to do anything with it. Just listening to it is just so, so powerful and yet
Yeah.
so scary. I get it. It's scary to even go there. And yet, when you do lean in and share your fears and you notice your partner can hold and support you and witness you in that, there is such a deep settling, nourishing feeling of, oh, I am seen and I am held and I am like respected and all of me is welcome. And that in itself is so healing.
Yes, totally. And I think that's also a big thing that men have, that they don't want to show themselves vulnerably because they think, oh, maybe I'm not perceived as a man if I do that. But then I tell them, look, if you're worried about that, you're not going to have erection, share it. Because we women, we have a lot of difficulties around sex. Very often we have pain, or we maybe are worried that we take too long. It could be many things. But when we know, oh, the man actually also has something that he's worried about, it's easier for us to open up because, sometimes there is this impression of, oh, the woman is the more difficult in the bed, stereotypically. So I find that many women, they just want to keep that to themselves. They don't want to like
Hmm.
complain again, or be difficult again. So I think it's very important for men also to voice their fears. It just creates this bonding experience of, hey, that's my
Yeah.
fear.
It's deeply, deeply intimate and it creates such a powerful bond between you and your partner. And I want to speak to, yeah, women thinking and feeling and fearing that they're going to take too long. And actually, kind of use my own example of that. Because if you take me back 20 years ago, yeah, there was worry that I might not orgasm or that I was going to take too long or that maybe it wouldn't feel good or maybe there would be pain. Like those actually were some of my concerns way back when. And it is through Tantra, it is through sacred sexuality and learning how to come home in my body and to feel my emotions, my grief, my rage, my anger, my frustration, and learning that they are safe to express, healing those parts of myself, and then bringing in the tantric, principles of playing with breath work and moving my energy, moving my sexual energy or my grief or my rage, whatever it may be in that moment showing up, moving it through my system using breath, using touch, really, really gentle touch, sounding, activating my voice, opening my voice, moving, deconditioning the way a woman should move in the bedroom. Those were air quotes on those on there for those who are listening to the podcast. All of this conditioning of how we should be showing up because this is what we're shown in porn and in movies and so forth. When we start to decondition that and then bring in the tantric tools of breath, movement, sound, energy play, intention, what is possible on the other side? So, right, you heard me, Kim, way back when, of afraid of no orgasm, no pleasure, might not get there. Now it's like 20, 30 plus, plus, plus. Sometimes I lose count. I lose count most of the times now of orgasms that are just start coming and playing and rolling through my system in full body, energetic, juicy, ecstatic, because I'm simply following my pleasure. And that is what is possible when we mix the tantric principles into sex. When we start to play with sex, love, and relationships, let's name them all, because if we can't have the relationship, the communication, the connection, the intimacy, the vulnerability with our partner, we can't go also as deep into our pleasure. I find it's very, very interconnected, at least for me and for many of the people and women that I notice, because women need to feel safe. Women need to feel connected. They need to feel heard. They need to feel seen. They need to feel respected. They need to feel cared for and cherished. And when they do, all of this opens up to 20, 30 plus, whatever it may be, orgasms. If I go back 5 years ago, it was still even five, six, seven, eight. Like it just keeps growing and changing more and more and more the more that I play with Tantra on my own, but also in my relationship. I think it's so powerful. And, you know, sure, this is great sex. We're talking about great sex, great relationships, which, my partner currently, he's like, well, sex is, only about 5 or 10% of a relationship in that this is his thoughts in that the time that is spent, right? Which I was like, okay, I get that. In the
Yeah.
time that is spent, it is about 5% ish between a week. And yet the quality of sexual connection ends up being about 90% of your
Mm,
relationship.
I agree.
The, the vulnerability, the intimacy, the connection, the being seen, the being held, the being loved, even through our fears, even if we don't have an orgasm, even if we're in pain that day, even if we burst into tears and we just want to be held, and that wasn't the plan, right? The vulnerability of being in that kind of relationship that is potent and powerful. Instead of the 5% of time you're spending having sex, it still makes a 90, maybe even closer to 99% of the deep bond that you hold, which I think is so powerful. And we need to put sex and sexuality and connection and relationship back on the table, because then when we can have that kind of relationship where you're so seen and so held and so loved, no matter what, the rest of your life is better. Your parenting is better. Your
Mm,
career is better. You are more regulated on your day to day. You can handle stresses, whether it's your own or worldwide. It all comes down to how seen and held and loved are you on that core level.
mm,
And if that is had, and of course we can offer this to ourselves as well, but the deepest one I think is in relationship, being witnessed by another human that way. We can have so much more in our life.
yeah, beautifully said.
Thank you. It just came through.
Mm.
It just all came together, right? It's
Yes.
how it works.
Mm.
Yeah. Oh, big breath on that one. Eh? It's a
Yeah.
lot. And it blows my mind that it is this important, and yet it is shamed and put down and rejected and put away and ignored, because it actually will change the entire world and how we relate and how we parent and how we hold space and how we govern and how we run our businesses or show up at our jobs. It makes a big difference.
Yeah, that's why I also see myself as a peace bringer, because if we can heal the sexual part, there is a lot of peace that enters our life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It is peace. That is the best name, best word for it. It's this inner peace and this
Mm,
inner settling. And when you handle the rest of your life from this deep inner peace, there's such a beautiful ripple effect.
mm,
Such a beautiful ripple effect. And,
yeah.
people look at a lot of us sex coaches and go, wow, you're glowing. What's your secret? You look like you're 30. In the meantime, I'm almost 50.
Mm,
And it's like, what's your secret? You ready? It's the pleasure piece. It's the tantra. It's the orgasms. It's the vulnerability. It's the intimacy. It's the connection with my partner. It's the connection with myself. It's being true to myself, being my true authentic self, and being loved and supported in that. Because from there, that's who we are. That's our life force energy.
mm, mm.
And I've said that before too. We can't be our true authentic selves without including our sexuality. It
Yes.
is the core of who we are and where we came from and how we actually recreate creative juices in our lives, like creative places in our lives. It's our creative energy that goes
Mm,
out and goes from there.
yeah, yeah.
It's so powerful. I
Ah.
want to ask you, how has Tantra and sacred sexuality changed your life?
In so many ways, but maybe what I could talk about is tantric sex, also known as slow sex. I discovered it 10 years ago or 11 years ago, I'm not sure. And I was with a man in Thailand and we read the book Slow Sex by Diana Richardson. And then we just tried and exercised and practiced. And I was very orgasm driven before that. I still love my orgasms, but I thought, it's a bit boring. We
Mm.
just stay connected and we don't do anything. We don't move. We don't chase the orgasm. There is no friction. There is no buildup of that pleasure. But because I'm a very curious person, I thought, okay, I'm just gonna try it out because I'm here for 5 weeks and I was in a very small village. There wasn't a lot to do in that mountain village in Thailand. So we just did it for hours. And
And what is the doing it? What is that? Is it
Yeah,
just what is it?
you
Explain for
are.
our listeners.
So you are connected, like penetration wise, but you don't move. So the penis or the cock is in the vagina and you don't move, but you can breathe together. You can focus on the energy that maybe you feel, or in the beginning you don't feel anything. You can describe what you're feeling, and that I found is the best way to getting to know the energy even better and being able to feel it. Because
Mm,
while the other person describes it, you then realize, oh, actually, wait, I also can feel that. But I wouldn't have been able to put words to that, like very, very gentle energy. But
mm,
then by naming it and putting into thought and feeling it more, it gets stronger each time you do that. So I love that part where we would describe what we can feel. And sometimes it sounds like I can feel some golden light coming out of your cock. And it's weird, but that's, you think you don't have an eye down there, but you see like golden light, or it feels like.
mm.
So that was very interesting. And then it was also very amusing to the group of friends that we were around, because every day they wanted to get an update. What happened last night? What happened during the day? So we were laughing a lot. And it took like waves, ripple effects, and they also started trying it. And a couple of months later, I had my best orgasm on it. Maybe it wasn't even an orgasm. Maybe it was just a ecstatic uh, hour or 2 hours. I don't know. I lost track of time, but it was just
Mm-hmm.
coming waves and waves. And then,
Yeah.
wow, it's over now. And then it's coming woo, again and again. Probably what you're describing was the 30 orgasms. So,
Mm-hmm. Lots of waves, lots of waves.
yes.
And they're
And
just like, oh shit, okay, another one. Oh shit.
yeah,
And it's just delicious. It's just
it is
riding the
delicious.
waves. Yeah.
It's also interesting because I eventually had to go to the loo, and then
Yep.
I had to use all my fours because I couldn't walk anymore. I didn't know what's up and down and what's like left and
Little
right.
drunk on some pleasure. Yes.
So, what I found very interesting is that it happened with no penetration, friction, no movement. Penetration, yes, I mean, like
Yep.
connection,
He was
but
inside you. Yeah.
no
No
movement.
movement, just sitting there. Were you eye gazing at the same time too?
Um, Partially. But I could feel that my heart was very open in that moment.
Mm.
And there
And
was
were
a
you
lot.
sitting in Yabyung?
Yes, he was
Okay.
actually he was lying down, but I was sitting on him.
Okay.
Yes, maybe in the beginning it was more like yap yum, but then he lay down.
You lay down. Yep. Beautiful. And yabyum, for those who are listening, is more when the man is sitting cross-legged and then the woman can put a bolster between, his knees or not, and just sit kind of up on his lap. You're almost both crisscross applesauce, but yet inside. And you don't always have to be in yabyum. You could just be just sitting like that, breathing and eye gazing. It gives a good connection between couples, good heights, good energy play. All your chakras are aligned. It's a beautiful way to play. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I love this. So you guys tried that for how long? A week? A month?
And so we practiced the 5 weeks we were in Thailand, and then we stayed together for a year. So we did it for a year, more or less. And I think it happened for me, it happened maybe in month 5 or something like that.
Yeah, you were
Yeah.
playing. And I'm guessing you were having what I'm going to call classical sex, for lack of a better word, in between other times. And then would you just, because you can bring that slow sex into regular penetration. Like sometimes we'll be, having lots of fun and lots of movement, but then all of a sudden we'll have a slow moment.
Mm,
And sometimes the biggest orgasmic pleasures do come from that slow moment, which is also really beautiful. It's
yes.
nice to play with different speeds.
Totally. And for me, it opened up my horizon about what sex is so much. I
Mm.
had a very fixed image, like many people probably out there. And I thought, okay, if there is no movement, it's not really called sex. But just that opposition of, okay, we're not going to move, that just made it possible for me to do whatever I want in bed, be playful. Like, can I be a kid again? And we just, use our bodies in different ways. And that was just such a big, big opening and development for me that, we
Mm.
don't need to go in those firm lanes and do what we've always done or think we have to do.
Hmm.
There's just
Same
too much
position,
pressure.
same, yeah.
Yeah.
So much permission, and so much expansion because I think most people today in today's society are using, again, maybe maybe 1, 2, 3% of all the possibilities of actually what is possible in connection and intimacy and sexuality with their partner. There's so much to play with. And that is one of the most beautiful benefits that Tantra has taught me of how to, I can't name it as the most beautiful, to be honest, because there's so many things Tantra has taught me, but definitely that way to heal in sexuality and heal in my body and heal in my pleasure, and bringing, that realm, that lens of tantra into sex, because tantra is not always about sex. There's, again, it's only about 8 to 10% of all tantra is sexuality, of playing that way, but just that part alone is so powerful, so powerful. it's
Yes.
it's it's opened up so much and allowed so much healing on every single level of my life.
Mm.
Anything else you want to share on there?
Um, yeah, I think Tantra has also shown me that I can be soft to
Mm.
myself, but also to people that maybe in the beginning I would have rejected, if I wouldn't have a tantric mindset. Um, yeah, very often I would meet someone and maybe they're not my type of person, but if I have my tantric approach, I can be open and I can just be um, open to what they put on my plate or my hand or whatever. And sometimes there come there comes like the biggest, most beautiful connection that we can have, even though maybe I would have pushed them away before knowing
Mm.
mantra. So for me also, maybe my parents, they wouldn't like to hear that, but for me it's also kind of like a Jesus way, where Jesus for me is a lot about love and having an open heart. And for me,
Mm-hmm.
Tantra is a bit like that, where even the ugly, the dark, is held with love. It's not just
With
the most
love
beautiful
and
thing.
compassion. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just everything is part of this life and everything deserves loving attention.
In a moment. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And that goes into the emotions, right? Allowing all the emotions to flow, allowing all parts of us to be here, allowing, the triggers to show up, allowing the fears to show up. All of this, the tantric philosophy and lens, applying it to all things, sex, love, relationships, which is pretty well everything.
Mm.
Everything lands in sex, love, and relationships, in one form or another. To hold that love and compassion, it's life changing. It is beautiful. It is so healing. And I'm so grateful to have found this journey myself, as I'm sure you are as well.
Yes, I am. Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm. Please share what you have going on right now. Where can people find you? We're going to put the links, of course, in the show notes, but verbally, please share what do you have going on?
Yeah, so my website is sexcoachsophie.com and you can work with me one-on-one. I give coaching usually around 4 6 months. I don't like to pressure people, but sometimes they need a break in between or take it a bit slower. So yeah, it really depends on how much work can they put in, because I don't want to create more stress for them. So yeah, it's usually half a year or something like that we work together. And some of them also they work for me for years. So that's also beautiful. And then I give genital massage courses. You can have an online version, or sometimes I also do them live. And I've started giving plant medicine retreats, but that's more for when you're in Switzerland, because yeah, you have to be there in person.
Hmm.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. And we'll drop the links in the show notes. And it's been a pleasure exploring all of the different possibilities that we each get to play with in Tantra and with our clients and with ourselves. So thank you so much for being so vulnerable and sharing all that you have.
Thank you so much for having me
You're
and
so
for your
welcome.
beautiful work.
Till
I
next
hope
time,
I will see
everyone.
you sometime in Canada or
Absolutely.
Switzerland.
Or Switzerland. Exactly. I haven't been to Switzerland yet.
Beautiful.
Yes. Till next time, everyone.